Bonjour, today let's practice the passé composé with irregular verbs in French. Before I start, there is an awesome guide available with this lesson, so click on the join button to become one of my members. In today's practice, we are going to look at irregular verbs in the passé composé. Now, we've had a look at regular verbs, we've had a look at IR verbs, but we haven't yet had a look at irregular verbs. The reason why I'm keeping this lesson last is because it's hard. Conjugating an irregular verb in any tenses is really hard, and it's even harder in the passé composé, and you're going to understand why in a minute. Now, what is a passé composé? And I've said that so many times before. It's an action that took place in the past and is gone done over with. So if I do a little chart here, or a little drawing, so this is the timeline, if you wish, here. And here's the passé composé. Now, the passé composé is an action in the past that took place and somehow is stopped, actually. Okay, so for example, I played tennis yesterday. Okay, and the fact that I give a timeline and a time yesterday means it happened once yesterday and the action is done over with. So if we put the present here, I play tennis. Okay, the future here, if you wish, I will play tennis. Okay, and the imperfect, if that helps, okay, we could put the imperfect at the same time as the passé composé. And the difference between the imperfect, imparfait, and the passé composé is that the imperfect somehow here carries on, and I'm going, sorry about that, carries on in time. Okay, it's still a past tense, but it started at one point and carries on. So I used to play tennis for 2 years. So for 2 years, that period, I used to play tennis. So we don't use the passé composé, we use the imperfect tense. Okay, now let's go back to the passé composé. How is it formed? Now, I've said that so many times before. You use the subject or the subject pronoun, okay, as in je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle, okay, he, she, and so on, okay, and either, depending on the verb that you use the auxiliary avoir in the present tense, as in I have, être in the present tense, as in I am, and then you add what we call a past participle to this. So that's why it's called a composed tense, okay? Un passé composé. The hardest thing you're going to find when conjugating a passé composé of an irregular verb is the past participle. So, how to form the past participle on third group verbs? Well, there is not so much of a pattern, I'm afraid, and this is why I left it blank. So I could go with a face like that. Oh, okay, sad face. It is really hard to do it, okay? And so how are you going to do that? You're going to learn by heart how to do the past participle of the verb être, for example. Now, in the first group, we've learned that it's quite simple. You drop the R of the infinitive and you add an accent, and that's your past participle. In the third group verbs, it's really different. And this is why I have, for example, put a list in a minute that you're going to see. And I would like you to set out the best or the top third group verbs and learn by heart their past participle. Now, let's have a look at what the past participle is. For example, in the verb prendre, and that means to take. Okay, can you say that? To take. The passé composé of prendre is j'ai pris. I have taken. And pris, here, can you say that, is a past participle, the same way as taken is in English. Okay, I have taken, j'ai pris. Now, where in English it means I took as well, in French you must only translate it in this composed tense of the subject, of the auxiliary, and the past participle. What am I doing here? Okay, and this is how you form the passé composé using third group verbs. So the most difficult would be, but what is the past participle of each one of these irregular verbs? For boire, for example, to drink, that's the infinitive, it becomes bu. Have a look at that. So drunk, I have drunk, or we have drunk, in that case, is nous avons bu. So where is it nous avons? Because we are using avoir as the auxiliary in the present tense, and we've added this past participle to it. Now let's have a look at être. Être, été is the past participle. So he has been, il a été. Again, you must know how to conjugate avoir, which we are going to see in 1 minute, in the present tense, in order to form this passé composé. Okay? So, as you can see, been here is the past participle. Okay, drunk here is the past participle here. Taken here and pris. Okay, so pris is taken, bu is drunk, été is been. Okay? Now, let's have a look at how we conjugate avoir in the present tense. I'm not going to go into any details on this one. You should know it by heart. J'ai means I have. Tu as, you have. Il a, he and she and so on has. Nous avons, we have. Vous avez, you have. Ils and elles ont, we've got two ways of saying they have, depending on whether it's a group of girls or a group of boys, okay? So that is one of the auxiliary. Another one, which is slightly more difficult to choose because, as you can see, only reflexive verbs and movement verbs use être in the passé composé, which means that it depends on the verb you're going to use, and you've got to wonder, is this verb a movement verb? Is this verb a reflexive verb? If so, when conjugating it in the passé composé, we need this auxiliary être, je suis, I am, plus past participle. Tu es, you are, plus past participle. I can't say it, past participle. Il and elle and est, she is, nous sommes, we are, vous êtes, you are. Of course, we have two ways of saying you. Ils sont and elles sont, which I forgot here. They are. Okay. And then you need to, of course, know whether your verb is a movement verb or a reflexive. There are plenty of lessons that I've recorded on reflexive and movement verbs, so have a look at them. You need to know them, okay? Now let's have a look at now a few past participles of irregular verbs. Avoir is eu. I know, right? Nothing to do with avoir. Vouloir is voulu, slightly similar. Pouvoir is pu. Okay. Aller is aller. Quite clever, this one. Faire is fait. Okay. Sortir is sorti. Rendre is rendu. And voir is vu. Okay. You have the translation and everything is available on the support guide if you want more of these examples I'm about to do. Okay. So let's try to practice now. Are we ready? Now, as you can see, for the first sentence, we've got the verb vouloir. Now, vouloir, okay, means to want. Okay, I'm going to underline it here, underline, vouloir. But we want to say Tom and then vouloir, te donner un cadeau. Tom wants to give you a present, and a cadeau, that's a cadeau. Okay, I'm going to draw it. Okay, that's a cadeau. Now, we want to say, obviously, Tom wanted to give you a present because we want to use the passé composé. Okay, not the present tense, the passé composé. How are we going to form that? First of all, identify the infinitive vouloir. Third group. So it's likely it's going to be very different in its past participle. So do we have it here? Yes, we have. Vouloir, have a look at vouloir here. It is voulu. So this verb will end with voulu, okay? But because it's Tom, we need to establish which auxiliary we need, okay? And because it's vouloir, of course, vouloir is used with avoir in the passé composé. So because it's Tom, and that takes me back here, do we use je as a pronoun, tu, il, elle, or on? Okay, it's singular, I'm going to stick here. It is il. So, il a, can you say that? Il a. So, when we are going to use this passé composé, because Tom is il a, we add an a. Tom a voulu te donner un cadeau. Tom wanted to give you a present. Do you see that? Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Nous, and the verb is descendre du train à Marseille. Now, this one is really tricky. If you know the verb descendre, you will know that it means to go down or come out, down, okay? Go downstairs, okay? Descend, okay? Now, this is part of a movement verb. Now, knowing it's a movement verb, we know that it must be conjugated with the auxiliary verb être. Well done. Être, okay? So, because it's nous, we need être next to it, conjugated with the form nous. So, let's have a look at what it is. Now, let's have a look at nous here. Nous sommes. Okay, nous sommes. I know that you may wonder, but I don't know that descendre is conjugated with être in a passé composé. Well, you don't know, but you need to learn that all the movement verbs are. So learn the movement verbs and learn the reflexive verbs as well. Okay, so nous and then sommes. Okay, I'll keep it red to show you the difference between the one above. And then you need to know what is the past participle of descendre. It's a third group verb. It's going to be quite radical, okay? But this one, funnily enough, is not as radical. It's descendu. Can you see that? So, descendu, I'm going to write. And because it's plural, and because we are using être, we need to agree the past participle with the pronoun it's referring to. So, here we go. Descendu as an S, because some is être, because nous is plural. Okay, so nous sommes descendus du train à Marseille. So we came down the train in Marseille. I mean, we arrived in Marseille by train. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Alice et Tom, the verb is faire un gâteau ensemble. So a cake together. Alice and Tom have made a cake together. Now, the verb, the auxiliary we want with faire is avoir. So, knowing that we want the auxiliary avoir, okay, plus past participle, okay, using Alice and Tom, you need to know if we were to replace Alice and Tom by a subject pronoun, which one would it be? I, you, he, she? Well, it will be they, wouldn't it? So, Alice and Tom is il, and then avoir. So, ils ont, they have, plus past participle, fait. Okay? Ils ont fait un gâteau ensemble. They have made a cake together. Okay? Are we getting used to it? That's really hard. I mean, can you imagine how hard it is for me to teach it to you? So, let's have a look at the next one. Je, and then the verb is voir. To see or to look. Je voir le dernier film de Steven Spielberg hier. Now, because it is voir, it's an auxiliary. We use the auxiliary avoir in the past. Okay, so it's going to be avoir plus past participle. It's not a movement verb. It's not a reflexive verb. Okay. Now, with the je, and you want to say I have, it is j'ai. But you've got to drop the E and add AI because j'ai starts with a vowel. So, j'ai. What is the past participle of the verb voir? And this is a crazy one. It is vu. J'ai vu, I have seen. So, I saw, really, that's what that means. J'ai vu le dernier film de Steven Spielberg hier. I saw the last film of Steven Spielberg yesterday. So, I saw Steven Spielberg last film yesterday. And there is a very clear indication that it's in the past tense because it has hier, which is yesterday. And to finish, and I remind you that you have more examples on your support sheet, Tom et toi, okay? And then the verb is apprendre, à parler français. Now, Tom and you learn, to learn is apprendre, okay, to learn, to speak French. But we want to put that in the passé composé. So, Tom and you learnt to speak French. How are we going to do that? First of all, identify the verb and whether it is with avoir or être. It's not a reflexive because it doesn't have a se in front of it, and it's not one of those movement verbs. There are only 17, so learn them by heart. Apprendre. Tom et toi. Identify the pronoun here. It is you, vous. And so how do you say you have learnt? Vous avez. And learn, I'm afraid you have to learn it. Appris is the past participle of apprendre. Tom et toi avez appris à parler français. Tom and you have learned to speak French. Okay? Okay, click on the join button if you want the rest of this support guide. Why don't you? Au revoir, à bientôt. Bisous, bisous.